Welcome, history enthusiasts, to a journey into the shadowy corners of the past, where we'll explore the eerie tale of the Comprachicos. This tale is as fascinating as it is chilling, revolving around a group known as the Comprachicos, whose story is steeped in mystery, speculation, and intrigue. The term Comprachicos, a Spanish compound word meaning child buyers, has been associated with a group of individuals allegedly operating in the 17th century Europe. These individuals have been historically depicted as traveling merchants who bought children from destitute parents, only to deform their bodies and faces through various techniques. The twisted purpose? To create living works of art, human curiosities for the entertainment of the wealthy and powerful. Over the centuries, the Comprachicos have inspired fear, curiosity, and a multitude of questions. Who were these people? What compelled them to engage in such grotesque practices? And most importantly, did they actually exist, or are they simply a product of historical exaggeration and literary embellishment? These questions have sparked numerous debates among historians, anthropologists, and literary scholars. They've also inspired works of literature, most notably Victor Hugo's novel, The Man Who Laughs, which has significantly shaped modern perceptions of the Comprachicos. Beyond the realm of literature, the tale of the Comprachicos also invites us to ponder more profound ethical and philosophical questions. It compels us to reflect on the extent to which society can manipulate the human body for aesthetic or entertainment purposes, a theme that resonates strongly even in our modern world. So buckle up for a captivating exploration of the Comprachicos, a journey that takes us from the dark streets of 17th century Europe to the ethical debates of the present day. We'll delve into their alleged practices, their influence on literature and culture, and the broader historical context of body modification. This journey may be unsettling, but it promises to be an enlightening exploration of a dark yet fascinating chapter of our shared past. Let's travel back in time to 17th century Europe, the supposed birthplace of the Comprachicos. Imagine a world where science and superstition coexist, where the mysteries of nature are just beginning to unravel. The 17th century was a time of radical change in Europe. The Renaissance had already set the stage for a revolution in thinking, sparking curiosity about the world and the human body. The scientific revolution was underway, with great minds like Galileo and Newton challenging the status quo and redefining our understanding of the universe. Yet not all was enlightenment and progress. Society was riddled with inequality and superstition. The lower classes lived in abject poverty, often resorting to desperate measures for survival. Amidst these stark realities, children were particularly vulnerable. Neglected or abandoned, they were often the victims of exploitation. It's within this tumultuous backdrop that the legend of the Comprachicos is said to have emerged. The word Comprachicos, a Spanish term, is a compound of two words, compra, meaning to buy, and chicos, meaning children. It paints a chilling picture of child traffickers who bought or kidnapped children only to deform their bodies in grotesque ways for the purpose of entertainment. The term's origins are as murky as the practices it represents. Some suggest it was coined by Victor Hugo in his novel, The Man Who Laughs, while others believe it was a colloquial term used in Spain much before Hugo's time. Regardless of its origin, the term Comprachicos became synonymous with the horrifying act of physically manipulating children for profit. The word itself carries significant implications. It suggests a transactional nature, a commodification of children. It speaks to the societal conditions that allowed for such a trade to flourish, where children were seen as disposable commodities, their worth measured in the amusement they could provide. It's a stark reflection of a time when human life was valued less than entertainment, a disturbing insight into the darker side of human nature. But it's important to remember that the Comprachicos are more than just a term. They represent a phenomenon, a cultural artifact that holds a mirror up to the society of the time. They remind us of the lengths humans can go to for their own amusement, the depths they can sink to when driven by greed and devoid of empathy. Thus, the stage was set for the emergence of the Comprachicos, a phenomenon as fascinating as it was horrifying. Now let's delve into the heart of the Comprachicos legend, their alleged practices and the victims of their gruesome artistry. The tales of the Comprachicos are laced with accounts of unthinkable practices. They were purportedly masters of the morbid craft of body deformation, shaping innocent children into grotesque spectacles for the amusement of the wealthy and the powerful. It was said that they employed a variety of techniques, ranging from surgical alterations to physical binding, to achieve their horrific ends. The surgical techniques allegedly used by the Comprachicos were nothing short of monstrous. Stories tell of how they would cut into the skin of their victims, manipulating the flesh and bone underneath to mold the child into a form that was both shocking and fascinating. They were said to be skilled surgeons, their knowledge of the human body enabling them to carry out these alterations with a chilling precision. Physical binding, another supposed method used by the Comprachicos, was equally brutal. This technique involved binding certain parts of the child's body, restricting growth and causing deformity. The child's body, still growing and malleable, would adjust to these constraints, leading to the creation of dwarfs, hunchbacks, and other deformed figures. The victims of these horrific practices were, according to the tales, often children of the underprivileged and the destitute. Parents, driven by poverty and desperation, would sell their children to the Comprachicos, condemning them to a life of pain and ridicule. These children, stripped of their identities and their humanity, were reduced to mere objects of entertainment, their suffering a spectacle for the amusement of others. Examples of these practices abound in the legend of the Comprachicos. Tales speak of the creation of dwarfs, their bodies stunted and twisted through physical binding. Hunchbacks too were said to be a product of the Comprachicos' handiwork, their backs bent and contorted through years of forced deformity. Yet it's important to remember that these accounts, as horrific as they are, remain part of the legend. The concrete evidence supporting these practices is scarce, and much of what we know about the Comprachicos is derived from stories and anecdotes passed down through generations. Despite this, the tales of the Comprachicos continue to captivate us, their alleged practices a chilling reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink in the pursuit of power and entertainment. These practices, as horrific as they were, became a part of the legend that is the Comprachicos. The tale of the Comprachicos has found its way into literature, most notably in Victor Hugo's The Man Who Laughs. In this novel, Hugo presents a vivid and harrowing portrait of a Comprachico victim, Gwynplaine, a man whose face was distorted into a permanent grin as a child. This character, and the world he inhabits, is a testament to the power of Hugo's storytelling, and his ability to weave historical fact and speculation into a compelling narrative. Hugo's portrayal of the Comprachicos is a significant part of our modern understanding of these figures. His vivid descriptions of their alleged practices, their victims, and the societal reactions to their grotesque creations have shaped our perceptions of this part of history. Through Hugo's lens, the Comprachicos are not just a historical curiosity, they are a symbol of humanity's capacity for cruelty and manipulation. But as we delve into the narrative of the Comprachicos, we find ourselves in a murky realm where fact and fiction are intertwined. The historical record offers scant concrete evidence about the existence of the Comprachicos, their methods, or their victims. Much of what we know about them comes from literary sources like Hugo's novel, which are, by their nature, prone to embellishment and dramatic license. This interplay between fact and fiction is a fascinating aspect of the Comprachicos story. It highlights the role of literature in shaping our understanding of history, and the power of narrative to bring to life the shadowy corners of our past. But it also underscores the challenges faced by historians in separating fact from fiction, and the importance of critical thinking in our engagement with historical narratives. Thus, the line between historical fact and literary fiction becomes blurred in the tale of the Comprachicos. The Comprachicos were not alone in their fascination with body modification. It's a practice that has roots in many cultures across the globe. Let's take a journey across time and space to explore some of these practices. In the Far East, for instance, foot binding in China was a prevalent practice from the 10th century until the early 20th century. This modification involved tightly binding the feet of young girls to alter their shape, resulting in what was considered a status symbol and a mark of beauty. Meanwhile, in Central America and other parts of the world, cranial deformation was a common practice. Here, the heads of infants were bound in cloth or with wooden boards to modify their shape, symbolizing tribal affiliation or social status. These practices, like those allegedly carried out by the Comprachicos, were driven by societal norms and aesthetic ideals of the time. They were examples of how societies manipulated the human form to fit a certain standard or ideal. But it's important to note that the existence of the Comprachicos remains a topic of debate among historians. The lack of concrete evidence, coupled with the sensational nature of their alleged practices, has led some to question whether they were a reality or a myth. The narrative of the Comprachicos, much like the stories of other body modification practices, is a complex interplay of fact and fiction, history and legend. The truth, as it often is, may lie somewhere in the middle. Regardless of their existence, these stories force us to confront our understanding of beauty, societal norms, and the lengths to which humans will go to fit or defy these constructs. The practices of the Comprachicos therefore reflect a broader historical fascination with body modification. The tale of the Comprachicos continues to echo in our modern world, raising ethical questions and sparking debates. The Comprachicos story, as we've explored, isn't just a dark tale from the past, but a narrative that has left its mark on our present and future. It's important to consider the ethical implications of the Comprachicos' alleged practices. The idea of manipulating human bodies for the sake of entertainment is a concept that is as chilling today as it was in the 17th century. This manipulation of the human form, whether real or imagined, raises questions about the value of human dignity and the lengths to which society will go for amusement. In the context of the Comprachicos, we see a grotesque distortion of humanity for the enjoyment of others. In our modern world, we may not deform bodies for spectacle, but there are still instances where human dignity is compromised for entertainment. Consider reality television shows that exploit personal struggles or physical differences, or the social media culture that often encourages and rewards outrageous behavior. While these practices are a far cry from the physical alterations allegedly performed by the Comprachicos, they do share a common thread: the manipulation of individuals for the pleasure of an audience. The Comprachicos story also invites us to reflect on current issues of genetic manipulation. Advances in science and technology allow us to alter genetic material, raising ethical questions about the potential misuse of these capabilities. Could we see a return to the Comprachicos era, not through physical binding but through genetic engineering? This is a question that science, ethics, and society must grapple with as we move forward. Finally, let's consider the cultural perception of monsters. The Comprachicos were said to create monsters for entertainment, reflecting a societal fascination with the grotesque and the other. This fascination hasn't disappeared. It's merely changed form. Today, we see monsters in our films, books, and video games, often serving as metaphors for our fears and anxieties. The portrayal of these monsters can influence societal attitudes towards those who are different, whether due to physical appearance, mental ability, or cultural background. Thus, the legacy of the Comprachicos extends beyond their historical context, touching upon our understanding of human nature and societal norms. The tale of the Comprachicos is more than a historical curiosity. It's a mirror reflecting our own ethical dilemmas, our fascination with the grotesque, and our ongoing struggle to define what it means to be human. As we look towards the future, let's remember the lessons of the past, ensuring that we value human dignity above spectacle, and understand that our differences are not monstrous, but simply part of the rich tapestry of human existence. As we reach the end of our journey, let's reflect on the enduring fascination with the Comprachicos. These shadowy figures of the 17th century, whether they existed in reality or only in the realm of myth and literature, offer a stark glimpse into the darker aspects of human nature and societal norms. The Comprachicos, as we've explored, allegedly practiced disturbing methods of body deformation, manipulating the innocent and vulnerable for their own gain. This exploration of power and control is a chilling reminder of the lengths some are willing to go to exploit others. We've seen how the term Comprachicos, derived from Spanish words meaning child buyers, encapsulates the horrifying practices attributed to these figures. Their story has left an indelible mark on literature, most notably in Victor Hugo's The Man Who Laughs, further blurring the line between fact and fiction. The practices associated with the Comprachicos resonate with other historical instances of body modification, like foot binding in China or cranial deformation. Yet, the lack of concrete evidence and the ongoing debate among historians leave us in a realm of speculation and conjecture. In the modern context, the story of the Comprachicos raises ethical questions about human manipulation for entertainment and aesthetic purposes. It brings to light the disturbing parallels with contemporary issues like genetic manipulation and the cultural perception of monsters. In essence, the Comprachicos serve as a mirror, reflecting the darker aspects of human society, the obsession with aesthetic norms, and the disturbing lengths to which people can go in the name of power and control. The tale of the Comprachicos, as dark and unsettling as it may be, serves as a potent reminder of the lengths to which human beings can go in the pursuit of beauty, power, and control.